السلام عليكم. مباراة توظيف أساتذة تعليم ثانوي، اختبار في ديداكتيك، تخصص اللغة الإنجليزية. إذن السؤال الأول: The approach holds that language is primarily used for communication and that it does not exist without users. So A, B, C, or D? So here we are talking about functional approach. So the functional approach focuses on using language for meaningful communication. So it is based on the idea that the best way to learn a language is to practice using it in a variety of different situations. And here we have users. So communication occurs between participants. All right. So the answer here is D. Next, question number 2. The explains language learning by taking into account exposure to language production, and also feedback on this production. So the answer here is D, interaction approach. So we can talk about the benefits of feedback. So here we have feedback. So the benefits of feedback and the benefits of interaction between participants in the classroom. So learners can be given feedback either by their teachers. For example, in speaking activities, teachers can give feedback to their learners on their speaking strategies. For example, checking understanding, self-correction. Or a learner can give feedback to another learner. Okay, so peer feedback is when students provide one another with feedback on their work or performance. So here the interaction approach, D. Question number 3. The input in second language acquisition refers to. When we're talking about input, we go to B. The language a learner is exposed to. Okay? A learner is exposed to. Question number 4. So question number 4. Within the interaction theory refers to the information which learners collect about the incorrectness of their grammar. So here, incorrectness of their grammar. So we go for negative evidence. Incorrectness of the grammar. Number 5. So here, something refers to the process of developing one's language toward a stage at which very little effort is made in its production. So here the learner is making a little effort in the production of language. All right, so we go to D, automatization. Number 6, As its name suggests, the grammar translation method is mainly based on translation from the native language into the second language. Which of the following activities is unlikely to be part of a typical grammar translation lesson? So A, asking students to read the text in their native language and answer comprehension question, that's okay. Asking student to translate, also you translate vocabulary. C, explain some structures from the text and comparing them to the structure of the target. That's okay, of the target language. D is the right answer. So D is unlikely to be part of grammar translation method. Asking learners to prepare a dialogue using the structures and vocabulary from the text and acting it out. That's not part of the grammar translation lesson. So the right answer is D. 7. The direct method assumes that language develops through providing students with ample reading and speaking opportunities. Which of the following activities is unlikely to be part of the typical direct method lesson? So which one do you think is the right answer? A, B, C, or D? So here we're talking about the direct method. So the right answer here is a C. C. Because according to the direct method, we don't focus on like you analyzing the structure. No, it does not focus on analyzing the structure. That's why I'll go for C. C is the right answer. Okay, so next. Number 8. Which of the following teaching techniques is not adopted in the audiolingual method? So memorizing, yes. Drilling, yes. Choral repetition, yes. But C, no. C is not part of the audiolingual method, analyzing language. So C. Question number 9. In the audiolingual method, students are asked to repeat chunks of language or sentences multiple times. So students are asked to repeat because proponents of this method believe that language learning, like learning to walk, is a matter of habit formation. That's the right answer. So it's a matter of habit formation. So A is the right answer. Number 10. After teaching the first unit in the textbook, the teacher decides to evaluate student learning. Which of the following tests would best serve the objective of the teacher? So we have diagnostic test, an achievement test, proficiency test, a placement test. So here, because we evaluates the student's learning, evaluation. So we go for an achievement test. An achievement test. Number 11. After the correction of the student's production in a test of writing, the teacher observes that although the whole class has very low grades, two of her students performed significantly lower than others. They barely completed writing a sentence of the required paragraph. The teacher then observed that one of these two students is physically disabled and other lacks basic literacy skills. In this case, which of the following decision the teacher should take? A, B, or C, or D? So ignore the issue? No. Teachers never ignore issues, but try to find the solution to the problems. Redo the same test for the whole class, same format? No. No point in repeating the same thing. Redo the same test only for the two special needs students after the correction. So you correct and then you do it again? No. Provide remediation, and then design two different tests, one of them specially designed for the special needs students. So D is the right answer. So first of all, you teach again, you revise the lesson, and then you design two different tests. That's 11. 12. For more equity and fairness in national exams, the Ministry of National Education has taken a set of procedures. Which of the following is not among the procedures which the ministry has taken? So A, B, C, or D. I'll go for sorry. Adapting the exam question for students with special need without affecting the content. That's okay. Give students with special need the chance to bring someone who can help in answering the exam. I think D. So D is not among the procedures. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Because if you bring someone else to do or to write the answers for you, then here we do not give the students the same opportunity, because other students will do the test for you. And here we have for more equity and fairness, should treat all the students fairly. So I'll go for B. B is not. 13. After scoring a language test, the teacher discovered that the overwhelming majority of the students obtained a score higher than 15. The teacher thought the student had cheated or the test was too easy. He then decided to administer a similar test targeting the same objective. After the scoring of the second test, the student's scores differed completely from those of the first one. We can conclude that the test lacks A, B, C, or D. So here we talk about reliability. So the test lacks reliability, and reliability is the extent to which test scores are consistent. Consistent. Now we go for 14. The test below appeared along with the text in a reading a comprehension lesson. Which of the reading subskills below does the task target? Read the article, check true or false. Predicting, reading for the main idea, scanning, interpreting meaning. So here we go for C, scanning, because here we are looking for specific information. We're looking for specific information, like looking for a name or a date or a number. So look for specific information. So we go for scanning. #15. The audiolingual method is known for the centrality of giving student feedback on their performance during the lesson. In this method, which of the following terms is used as an appropriate equivalent to the term feedback? So here we go for C, reinforcement. Reinforcement when talking about the audiolingual method. 16. Which of the following materials is widely used by the teachers of the silent way? The silent way. So talking about the silent way, we go for colored rods. Okay, colored rods. 17. So 17, in second language learning theories, mainly Krashen's monitor hypothesis, a high effective filter, facilitate language learning, hinders language learning. Let me talk briefly about what Stephen Krashen called the effective filter hypothesis, which explains why some learners might feel anxious or blocked when they are speaking a new language. So learners' emotional state or attitude, for example, fear, embarrassment, motivation, self-confidence, affect their language learning. Thus, language acquisition occurs most effectively when learners are in a relaxed, or low anxiety states. When this filter is high, language input is impeded, hindering the acquisition process. So the right answer here is B, hinders language learning. 18. The task below appeared in a grammar lesson about the simple past. At which stage of the grammar lesson is this task more likely to be introduced? So here we have a pair work, talk about how life in your country has changed in the last 15 years. Ask questions like these, and so on. Presentation stage, practice stage, check and understanding stage, and production stage. So here we can talk about PPP, which is presentation, and then practice, and then production. So first of all, the teacher introduces a new vocabulary or a grammar lesson, and then controlled practice, and then production stage when the students communicate freely. Okay, next question number 19. The task below appeared in a textbook which adopt a communicative approach. Which of the following lessons is unlikely to be required for a student to successfully do the task? So because we are talking about a communicative approach, so D is not included. D, because D we have transforming sentences into the passive. It's not the focus when talking about a communicative approach. 20. Maria, a secondary school teacher, observed that many of her students become much more active and engage in tasks which involve some type of designing, drawing, visualizing processes and ideas. Which of the following pedagogical procedures would better cater for the learning needs of the Maria students? So here, because we have designing, drawing, visualizing, so we go for C, because you have graphs, charts, maps, and images. 21. Murad is a student who enjoys learning with peers. He gets really involved and engaged in tasks which require group and pair work. Even when the teacher asks the class to do an exercise individually, Murad usually looks for a partner to work with. He would turn to the students sitting next to him and start discussing the task or talking about the exercise. From his behavior, we can't say that Murad is disruptive student? No. Learn better through touch and movement? No. Spatial and naturalistic learner? No. So we go for D. Learns learns better through interpersonal intelligence. 22. Although it's now established, okay, it's now established that most complex and mental operations involves an interaction between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. It is claimed that by adolescence, different parts of the brain develop the capacity to specialize only in a set of cognitive, social, emotional functions. This process of brain specialization is scientifically referred to as plasticity, localization, contextualization, lateralization. So here we are talking about what we call brain lateralization, which means that our brain is divided into two halves or two hemispheres, the right and the left. And each hemisphere has its own specialization. So the answer is D. Question 23. As children mature, they develop knowledge of the world. This knowledge is stored in the brain as mental representation, which are often referred to as schema. In teaching, reading, comprehension, these mental representation of the world are often believed to hinder or facilitate allow help teacher teach reading without prior planning. So indeed, this can facilitate comprehension of the text in a second language. 24. The following task appeared in a reading lesson. Which of the following reading sub-skills does this task target? So a journalist interviewed 4 people. Read the title. What do you think? What do you think the answer will be? So here we are predicting, not inferencing, not skimming, not reading for specific information, not predicting. 25. Neuroscientists, though not all of them, believe that the ability to learn faster and with little effort is limited to a certain age, beyond which learning a second language becomes very difficult and laborious. The period beyond which learning a new language is difficult is often referred to as, so this is what you call the critical period. So A, the critical period. 26. There is clear evidence. There is clear evidence that a child acquiring her mother tongue develops the ability to use language not only correctly, but also appropriately in different contexts. In second language teaching, the approach that was inspired by this evidence is, of course, communicative language teaching. So communicative language teaching tries or aims to develop the ability to use language not only correctly but also appropriately in different contexts. So C. 27. Muhammad, Maryam, and Ali and Nada are all language students. Not all of them attend their language classes with the same incentive. Which of the 4 students is intrinsically motivated? Intrinsically. So Muhammad participates actively in this class because he knows that part of the grade he will get. So he's looking for the grade. So no. B. Maryam is an active student. She enjoys her English classes and she likes the language and how native speakers use it. That's the right answer because she enjoys learning English. So she is intrinsically motivated. 28. Mr. Najai's students listen to the recording of a presentation at a conference. They are asked to evaluate the tone and the pace of the delivery. The main objective is to help students. So I go for A. Develop the verbal, not non-verbal, verbal skills necessary to speak publicly. 29. Which of the following activities is more appropriate for group work? So drilling, no. Gap filling, no. Playing doctor-patient role, that's pair work between 2 students. So we go for jigsaw reading. So like the students work in group and try to complete the task. They share the task. Like each one completes part of the task. And then they do it together as a group work. So jigsaw reading. D. 30. So Nadia notices that one of her students has suddenly become unmotivated and has lost interest in class discussions and activities. After inquiring about this issue, Nadia found out that her student has recently been in some social instability and has family problems. Hence, the teacher concluded that she needs to provide her student with more care, stability, security before she can get back on a track. Which of the following theories better addresses the issue being discussed here? So, Piaget's theory of cognitive development, Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, Maslow's need theory, or behaviorist theory. So, here, of course, we are talking about Maslow's need theory. Which means that uh, we need to first help students to satisfy their basic needs like food, security, self-esteem, and so on before um before coming to the classroom or before asking them to concentrate or be creative in the classroom. So we need to, first of all, to provide and provide all the necessary basics. 31. Mrs. Rice's students are unable to recognize the major concepts in reading text, although they can derive specific details and information. Which of the following activities can Mrs. Rice do with her student to overcome the problem? So they cannot recognize the concepts. So in that case, we go for make them summarize. So they will summarize the main idea. Alright, summarize the main ideas in the text. 32. The supervisor's note on a teacher's performance draw the latter's attention to the necessity of prioritizing student interaction. Student interaction. Which of the following can favor this interaction pattern? So we go for information gap activity. 32. I want to get a score equal or higher than 70 so that I can get a place at the university. So here he's learning or she's learning English or she's learning because he or she want to get a score, certain score. So here it is instrumental motivation. It's B, instrumental motivation. 34. When teaching grammar, the teacher always provides the learners with the rule at the very beginning of the lesson. Then she asks them to apply it to different examples. The approach the teacher adopts is deductive, inductive, communicative, discovery. So here we are talking about deductive. So deductive approach is the case when the teacher starts with a rule. And then examples. Inductive is the opposite. You start with examples, situation, and let students discover the rules by themselves. 35. When teaching daily routines, a teacher asks one of his students to walk around the class, and find 6 students who do not go to bed early on Friday. And this is an example of a survey. So you walk around and ask students to find how many students, for example, go to bed early on Friday. 36. Najwa is a secondary school student who has some special characteristics. Alright, questions, etc. I don't have time to consider. You see, she doesn't take time. She doesn't take enough time. Mhm. And that's why she often tend to make a lot of mistakes. So we can say she is an impulsive learner. She's an impulsive learner. 37. Differences in learning styles can make the same teaching method wonderful for some learners and terrible for others. The three major and predominant learning styles that are generally referred to in the literature are. So we are talking about three main learning styles. So A, auditory. Auditory. It means that students learn more by listening, and visual, and then kinesthetic, when the student like to do things, like make experiments, touch things, okay, rather than theory. They like to put the lessons into practice. Then we have three major learning styles. The process approach to writing focuses on the process. We focus on the process, how ideas are developed and formulated to generate text. Accordingly, writing is not. So here, writing is not linear. It's not from one stage to another linear. No, it's like always moving backward and forward. It's not linear. 39. When introducing units, the teacher asks students to individually write few ideas about the topic of the unit. He then asks them to discuss their ideas in pairs. After that, discuss the ideas in larger group. In this activity, the teacher here is an organizer. He is organizing group works, he's organizing an activity, and so on. So B, an organizer. 40. In line with the standard and competency based education, teachers need to adopt performance assessment in the classroom. It requires learners to demonstrate what they know and are able to do through open-ended task. Open-ended task. Which of the following is a performance assessment technique? Multiple choice? No. Transforming sentences? No. Sentence rewriting? No. So describing a picture. Alright? So describing a picture. So this can be, you can do that through open-ended tasks or open-ended questions. 41. Which of the following is not a principle of communicative language teaching? Meaning, yes. Appropriacy, yes. Authenticity, yes. Accuracy is not. Of course, accuracy is not completely neglected in the communicative language teaching approach, but the focus is more on meaning and the ability to produce appropriate sentences and utterances. 42. The 5 C's of the standards-based approach to language teaching are. So the right answer is B. So we have communication, and we have connections, and we have cultures, comparisons, and communities. So the right answer is B. That's what you mean by the 4 C's. Sorry, the 5 C's. '43. In a vocabulary lesson, the teacher wants to teach the word parents in the context of a sentence below. Okay. So, which of the following techniques should the teacher use? So here, antonymy. So antonymy is the relation between words that have the opposite meaning. The opposite meaning. So you can use you can use you can use this in the context of teaching vocabulary, so the students can guess the meaning of a word. So antonymy. So the answer is A. The right answer is A. Which of the following task can target the S in the SQ for 4 Rs? So here we have what we call SQ4Rs. So here this stands for S, survey. Alright, survey. Survey. Q, question. 4 Rs we have read, recite, relate, and review. And survey, it means, it means to look at the picture. You look at the picture and the topic sentence and guess the topic. Not survey the text. That's 45. 44, sorry. Now 45. In a listening lesson, student raised his hand and expressed his frustration due to the inability to decipher all the words in the audio track. The teacher advised him not to bother himself with single words and should instead try to understand the general meaning of the passage as a whole, making use of what he already knows about the topic. This is the principle of. So let's distinguish between a bottom up and top down. So here the right answer here is top down. Okay, top down approach. So top down approach, using what you already know about the world to understand the text. So the students use their own background knowledge to guess or predict the meaning. So the answer here is A, top down approach. 46. While preparing my lesson, I always try to have tasks in a logical and smooth order. The teacher here is connected with interaction, sequencing, balancing, pacing. So here we're talking about sequencing. Sequencing. And one after another, one activity and then another and then another. 47. It's speaking session today. At the end of the unit, the teacher is running a discussion with her 10-student class about the role of technology in people's life. What is the most appropriate setting? We're talking about seating arrangement for this activity. Here we can talk about horseshoe. So this seating arrangement is suitable when you want students to communicate and face each other. Okay, so they can talk and they can face each other and then they can communicate or debate. So A. 48. Project-based learning offers learners opportunities to develop at various levels. Which of the following is not a characteristic of project-based learning? So structural practice is not. Okay, so students are offered a lot of structural practice. So the right answer is A. A is not a characteristic of project-based learning. B, yes, students build knowledge through interaction. C, students acquire cooperative learning skills. Yes. D, students are connected with other communities. Yes. 49. Mr. Khaldi is playing a game with his students. They feel safe and satisfied as their teacher is showing love, respect for every one of them. And this is a typical scenario of grammar translation method, no. Silent way, no. Cognitive code learning, no. So Suggestopedia. So Suggestopedia endeavors or provides a positive atmosphere, learning atmosphere for students to learn. 50. So in the audiolingual method, teachers analyze learners' language production in order to highlight the problems or errors which might be due to the interference of the first language with the structure of the second one. This process which teachers undertake is called error analysis, interlanguage interference, contrastive analysis. So the right answer here is D, contrastive analysis, which means that we compare two languages, okay, in order to predict some potential errors. All right, so and errors can be due to the interference of the first language. All right, so we go for D, contrastive analysis. 51. While scoring student tests on writing, the teacher noticed that one of his students' handwriting is totally illegible. After inquiring about the student, the teacher discovered that she has a physical disability with her hand. Which of the following decisions should the teacher take? Give the student the grade she deserves for the writing? No. Give the student another chance to take the test. Ask another student to rewrite the test. Give the student an oral. So for D, no, because this is writing and not an oral test. So because she cannot write, alright, because she has a physical disability in her hand, so you can ask another student to rewrite. So you rewrite it. It means the student, the concerned student, first write the answer, and then another student can rewrite the same answer for her or for him. You see? So I go for C. '52. The results of a language teacher's survey revealed that a large number of her students are endowed with some kind of naturalist intelligence. Naturalist intelligence. The teachers want to adapt her instruction to cater more for the needs of the majority of her students. Which of the following activities would best serve this purpose? And this is a language class. So language teacher. So language class. So I'm not going for A. A no, because it takes student to the park to see animals. So it does not involve language. Pictures around the class. So no. So I go for C. You design, because here we have to adapt the instruction. So you design reading and speaking. So both are language skills. about nature. So C will be the right answer. 53. In unit about health, Mrs. Rouagie wants to teach the effect of eating fast food on teens' health. For this reason, she intends to use the pictures in the student's book, including one which shows an obese teenager. In case there is a student suffering from obesity in the classroom, what do you think the teacher should do? So I go for D. Avoid using the picture because it can create kind of embarrassment for that student. So avoid using the picture and teach the word differently. 54. So, which of the following skills dominates the early stages of a language learning in the total physical response method? Reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So, according to this method, total physical response method, children develop listening competence before they develop the ability to speak. So children's ability in listening comprehension is acquired because children are required to respond physically to spoken language in the form of parental commands. So the right answer is listening. 55. So within the students, within the standard-based approach-based framework, while teaching a unit on pollution, the teacher is targeting the connections area of the 5 C's. Which of the following activities will best serve this objective? So connections means that learners make connections with other subjects such as geography, science, and history. So the right answer will be B, asking students to interview the science teachers in their school about harmful chemicals. 56. Great job, Tony, in the context of the classroom. This reaction from a teacher is an instance of positive reinforcement. So C. 57. So 57, the silent way is mainly based on the principle of cognitive approach. One of these principles is that teaching should be subordinated to learning. So means learning should be given more importance rather than teaching. So teaching should be subordinated to learning. This means that teaching is learner centered. So B, teaching is learner centered. 58. In a reading lesson, after the student answered a couple of questions about the main ideas of the text, the teacher asked them to talk about what strategies they use to get their answers. So the teacher is thus targeting the students, and this is what we call metacognitive strategies. B. So metacognitive strategies, the students are aware of their own learning. They reflect they are aware of what strategies they use for learning. So metacognitive strategies. 59. Kamal is an English language student. He often reflects on his performance, evaluates his achievements, and keeps a diary on which he records his thoughts about his learning experience. He does not feel at ease when he's working a project or a task with his classmates. So here we see Kamal is intrapersonal. So he reflects on his work, intrapersonal. So he is an intrapersonal learner. Alright, so he evaluates his achievements, he reflects on his work. Alright, so intrapersonal learner. 50 or 60. Rashida is a high school student. She has a good command of the language. She actively takes part in small, closed group activities. However, she is always reluctant to participate in activities which expose her to the public. She has recently refused to represent her school in a regional public speaking contest. Her teacher concluded that Rashida requires special treatment because she she's not intrinsically motivated. No. She has a negative attitude to English. No. She's a field dependent learner. No. So D. She has a low self esteem. إذا هكذا نكون انتهينا من تصحيح هذا الامتحان بخصوص مباراة التعليم. أتمنى تكونوا استفدتوا ونشوفكم على خير. شكرا وإلى اللقاء.